If you really want to be heard, you need to choose a market where you can be heard above all the rest. And I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. Now, these days, online and even offline, it's a pretty crowded old world, and it can sometimes be very difficult for you to make your voice heard above all the rest. So you need to do several things to make yourself really stand out and to make people really be able to listen to what you have to say. And the first thing is that you really need to be able to speak with confidence. And I mean that in both a literal and a metaphorical sense. You want to be able to speak confidently, and you also want to be able to be confident in what you're talking about. So you want to look at your personal strengths. And by that I mean things that you're good at and things that you've done in the past. And this can be in your work, or it can also be in your personal life. Now, let me give you some examples. For instance, in your work life, did you run a business, or do you still run a business, or a department within a business? Did you sell a product? Have you made money from investments? Have you made money online? Have you designed websites or apps? Well, of course, lots of people haven't done any of those things. So if you've done it and you've done it successfully, then that's something that you can talk about with confidence and with authority. What about in your personal life? Have you been involved in a happy, loving relationship? Do you play sports? Did you lose weight? Can you play a musical instrument? Again, these are all things that other people would be interested in knowing about and interested in knowing how to do successfully. Then, of course, there are your interests, things that you are interested in. And this can be a hobby, or it can be a pastime, or it can just be something that satisfies your curiosity, because if you're curious about something, then chances are other people are going to be curious about it as well. So, do you like playing video games or sports? Are you interested in something like, politics or solar energy, that sort of thing? Do you like making things? Because, as I said, chances are other people will be interested in that sort of thing too. So what you should do is to make a list of all your achievements in life, in your work life, in your personal life, everything like that. And then you want to make a list of all the things that you're interested in or enjoy doing. Now, bear in mind, these lists are going to be longer than you think. You might think when you're starting out, oh, I've never done anything, I don't know anything about anything. Well, when you write it all down, you'll find that you actually know more than you think you do. What you have to do then is to whittle these lists down to about half a dozen topics that you're sure you can speak on with authority and confidence. Then it's time to start doing your research and to start seeing how many other people are also interested in listening to what you have to say. But do bear in mind, you can't be heard if you don't know what you're talking about. So don't try and talk about the subject that you really don't know anything about, because people who do know a little bit about it won't be taken in and you'll be seen through as a fraud. So you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that when you want to be heard, you know what you're talking about. In this video, I'm going to talk you through some market research tools. Because you see, in order to be heard, you need to make sure there aren't too many competing voices. And one way to find out is by doing a keyword search. You'll want to find keywords that have lots of people searching for them, but not that many sites indexed. And this makes it more likely that someone will find your site instead of a competitor's. A really good tool to use for keyword research, and by extension market research, is the Google AdWords Keyword Planner. And this is a free tool that's available to everyone online. It's quite a long URL, so if you just type in Google AdWords Keyword Planner into Google, you'll be redirected to the sign-in page. Then you can sign in, and if you have a Google ID, if you've got a Gmail account or something like that, you'll automatically be able to sign in. Now, it's set up really for knowing how much you're going to pay if you want to buy a Google AdWords ad, but you can use it for other purposes as well, and it is actually a very good market research tool. There are two ways that you can really use it for market research. The first is to search for new keywords using a phrase, website, or category, and the other one, if I scroll down a bit here, is to get search volume data and trends. Now, let me just show you the first one here. This is how you search for new keywords. You enter your product or service in here, or your landing page, or a product category. Then you can decide how you're going to target it by all locations, all languages, Google, negative keywords, etc. You can have keyword filters. Generally, these are just for if you're going to be buying a Google AdWords ad. Okay, then you click on the button here that says Get Ideas. It takes you through to this page, which by default comes up here to Ad Group Ideas, which is obviously for buying an AdWords ad. But if you click on this tab here that says Keyword Ideas, then it gives you some more data that's probably going to be more of interest for market research purposes. It's got the keywords listed by relevance. It tells you the average monthly searches, and it also tells you the competition. Now, the competition is going to be the competition for an AdWords ad, but it does give you an idea as to how many sites are out there with this particular keyword. So it gives you an idea about how many other sites could be out there in Google. The suggested bid and all this other stuff, this is really just for if you're going to buy an AdWords ad. And so you can come up with some good ideas for keywords which you can then use to delve deeper. Now, the other way that you can use the AdWords Keyword Planner for market research is to get search volume data and trends. And what you do is you enter your keywords or key phrases in here, separated by commas. I'm going to have internet marketing and search engine marketing for this demonstration. Or you can upload a file from your computer. You can target either locally or all locations. You can target Google or Google and its search partners. Negative keywords can be included, so you can take out things like free and that sort of thing. You can select a date range, or you can show the average monthly searches for the last 12 months. I'm going to keep everything at the default settings for this demonstration. And then click on here that says Get Search Volume. And it takes you through to this page. And you can see that it shows you a lot of information here. Let me just scroll down a bit. You can get the average number of monthly searches in Google. Tells you the competition, the suggested bid, and all this other stuff. This is if you're going to buy an AdWords ad, just like on the last section there. And it also gives you the competition, and also gives you this graph that shows the number of searches per month. Now, I'm making this video in March 2016, so you see it showing me everything over the previous 12 months. You can see if there's a trend going, or if there are times of the year when these particular search phrases get searched for more than other times. So, for example, here, let's look at the one for search engine marketing. You also have this rather annoying version of it that pops up when you put the mouse over this little icon. And you can see that as far as search engine marketing is concerned, it's pretty much the same throughout the year, except you do get this spike here in April when it does tend to go up a little bit. You've got 14,800 searches in April as opposed to 12,100, which is pretty much static throughout the year. And you can do this if you have a lot of different keywords that you're planning on using, or you can combine this with the keyword finder. It's up to you, really. Now, another tool that I want to tell you about is Market Samurai. I'll be honest with you, when I first started using Market Samurai, I had a hard time getting my head around it because it can be very complicated, and some of the ways that you look for things on Market Samurai are different than you would do in the Google Keywords tool. Nevertheless, it is a very good piece of kit once you get used to using it, because it'll tell you a lot more things than the Google AdWords keyword finder will. In particular, Google doesn't tell you how many backlinks there are for a particular website. And what you can do with Market Samurai, in addition to using it to find keywords, you can also use it to see which sites get to the top of the search engine rankings in Google and other search engines. And also what their keywords are and how many backlinks there are going to that particular page. So you can find out that there might be a top-rated site for one particular keyword that only has 2 or 3 backlinks going to it. And you could then optimize your website for that particular keyword, get a few more backlinks, and beat it to the top of the rankings. So it does tell you a lot of information. Let me just scroll down a bit here. There is a video on the website that explains exactly how it all works, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this video. And despite what it says here, a free copy of Market Samurai, it is only a free trial version. The actual software, the full version, let's click here, is a paid-for piece of software. Here you can see at the time that I'm making this video, it's $149, but it does unlock everything permanently. The free trial version lets you do all this, but once the trial's over, then obviously the number of functions that it has becomes quite severely limited. And you can see it's got a whole lot of information about it there. And you can read more about it at marketsamurai.com. Now, using these tools will make it easier for people to find your website or blog and hear what you have to say. In this video, I want to talk about blogging to be heard. Now, what is a blog? Well, Wikipedia defines it like this. A blog, a truncation of the expression weblog, is a discussion or informational site published on the World Wide Web consisting of discrete entries, posts, typically displayed in reverse chronological order. The most recent post appears first. Many blogs provide commentary on a particular subject. Others function as more personal online diaries. Others function more as an online brand advertising of a particular individual or company. A typical blog combines text, images, and links to other blogs, web pages, and other media related to its topic. So, why do you need a blog to be heard? Well, quite frankly, it's the easiest way of getting your message out there. And when indexed in the search engines, anyone can find it. Your blog needs to be structured properly, though, and it needs to be keyword optimized. Now, when it comes to blogging, you've got 2 options. You can have your blog self-hosted, and that means that you have your own domain and your own hosting, and you install the software on it, and then you drive traffic to it just as if it was a sales-type website. Or you can host it on third-party sites like WordPress.com, and WordPress.com is probably the most popular one. Now, there are pros and cons to each approach. Let's talk about self-hosted. Well, the pros, well, first of all, it's yours. It's your blog, and it's on your domain, and you can do whatever your hosting company would allow you to do with it. You can have your own domain, which means that it's much easier for people to remember it. And you can personalize it with plugins. So you can have things like your latest tweets showing in a sidebar and that sort of thing. Now, the cons are, well, first of all, you have to pay for domain and hosting, and depending on your hosting company, that can be quite expensive. And also, blogs, and particularly WordPress blogs, can be vulnerable to hackers, particularly if you're using shared hosting. You might find that a hacker gets into another blog that's hosted on the same server and then is able to attack yours, almost via a back door. So that is a problem that a lot of people who have self-hosted blogs have to face. Now, what if you're going to host it on sites like WordPress.com? Well, the pros, first of all, it's free. You might have to pay extra for a domain name if you want a domain name, just like you would if it was your own self-hosted blog. You can actually have your own domain name, but they do charge extra for that, and quite substantially more than you would pay to have your own domain name if it was on your own hosting. But they do have bulletproof security. I mean, the good people at WordPress are very good at making sure that the bad guys don't get in. So your chances of being hacked on WordPress.com are much lower than they would be if you have it on your own hosting. And blogs on WordPress.com get indexed very quickly. The spiders from Google and other search engines visit the site several times a day, and you can find that your blog itself and the posts that you put on your blog do get indexed very quickly indeed. And the cons, well, first of all, it's not yours, so it can be pulled without notice. So if it's on a subject that WordPress don't like, or if you do something that they don't like that maybe violates one of their terms and conditions, and some of the terms and conditions and terms of service can be quite onerous, they can pull it without notice and without recourse, and that's it, your blog is gone. So that's a big downside to doing it this way. And there are some restrictions on the sort of subject matter that you can have. There are some restrictions on the type of uses that you can put it to. Some blog hosts don't allow you to do any sales from it, that sort of thing. And some blog hosts, not necessarily WordPress.com, but some blog hosts will also put AdSense advertising on your blog that they get all the proceeds from. So there are pros and cons to having it hosted on a third-party site. Now, how do you set up a blog? Well, let me show you. It is actually very simple. I'm going to use WordPress.com for this demonstration. Be sure to come to WordPress.com, not WordPress.org. WordPress.org is where you can download the software and install it on your own website. So you come to WordPress.com and you click here where it says Create Website. And it takes you through to this page. And as you can see, there are 4 steps to getting your WordPress blog set up. The first one is to choose a theme. This is a pre-made design for your WordPress blog, and you can change it later if you wish. And there's a whole lot of different ones available, and not just the ones that are on WordPress.com. You can get some ready-made. You can get people to custom design you a WordPress theme. There are websites online where you can develop your own WordPress theme. So it is very, very flexible in that respect. So let's see. Let's have this one here, Coles. So I'll click on that. It says pick. And then you want to find a domain. Now, when you have WordPress.com, you can have your own domain redirect to it. It costs extra to map it to this particular site, or you can buy a domain from them, although quite frankly you can probably get it cheaper somewhere else. Otherwise, your domain is going to be your keywords followed by a dot and WordPress.com. So let's enter a domain. Let's call this new video to go. And I can have it new video to go.wordpress.com for free, or I can have all these other versions for an extra cost. Now, I'm in the UK, so it's giving the prices in pounds sterling. If you're in another country, it will show it in your local currency. I'm just going to stick with the free version for this demonstration, so we'll click on Select. And then you pick the hosting plan. The free one is, as you can see, just the very basic one. It's a WordPress site loaded with powerful features, 3 gigabytes of storage space, and support from the WordPress community. For £85 a year, you've got all these extra ones, and for $250, you've got all these extra add-ons as well. I'm just going to stick with the free version for this demonstration, so select free plan. Then you need to add your email address, username, and password. So let me just pause the video while I do that. Okay, I've done that. And now what I have to do is agree to the terms of service and click here to create my account. And it says it's creating the account, adding the theme, free plan selected. And there we go. And I don't want Chrome to save this password. So now this takes you into the WordPress dashboard. You've got the stats, the plan. You can add your blog posts or pages. You can change the themes. You can change the menu. You can configure it all sorts of different ways. What I'll just show you here is how you can add a new blog post, which is to click here on Add. Now it's also asking me to verify my email address. What you'll have to do when you sign up is they will send you an activation email, and then you click on the link in it to validate your email address. Your blog site won't actually show until you do that, but you can still get everything set up ahead of time. Okay, let's type in a title for our first post. Let's call it My First Post. And then you can just simply type away. And you can preview it by clicking on this button here. And you can see this is what it will look like. And then you can publish it and have it up online right away. And you can see what it's going to look like on a PC. You can see what it's going to look like on a tablet. You can see what it's going to look like on a smartphone. And of course, one thing about having your blog hosted on WordPress.com is it does get indexed very quickly. So you can get your site out there and get heard much more quickly than by other means. So there's pros and cons to both, like I was saying earlier on. So there you go. That's why you need a blog in order to be heard and how you can set one up. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can leverage somebody else's soapbox. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, a bit of history. Years ago, before corrugated cardboard became the norm for large boxes to pack things in, most products came from the wholesaler to the retailer packed in wooden cases. And in particular, soap was a very popular item to be shipped in this way. And so every large sort of wooden packing case got the nickname of being a soap box. Well, politicians and other people who wanted to make a public speech or an impromptu public speech found these very useful for rising above the crowd and for making themselves heard, as you can see in this photograph here. You can see the politician in the middle there, and he's standing on a soapbox, presumably, or some sort of wooden box, which means that all the guys out there in the crowd can hear what he has to say, and so he can make himself be heard above the crowd. Now, the modern equivalent, and in particular the modern online equivalent, is guest posting. Now, guest posting means posting an article on somebody else's blog for free, in return for a link to your blog and a brief bio, a brief bit of information about you, about your organization, about your blog. And it has several advantages. First and foremost, if it's a popular blog, then your post is going to get noticed and it's going to get read. So you can find that lots of people who read this blog will now know about you because they've discovered you on this other blog. And also, by giving you a platform, the blog owner is giving you an endorsement as well. So if you can get a guest posting on a very popular, authoritative blog, then by associating yourself with that blog, some of that authority is going to rub off onto you. There are, of course, some disadvantages to guest posting. First and foremost is it takes time to get accepted. So if you want to get the word out in a hurry, then guest posting is definitely not the way to do it because it does take some time. Plus, you have to have some sort of following in order for other blog owners to want to be associated with you. So you need to have a blog, you need to be getting some traffic to it, you need to have plenty of posts on it already so that when you approach a blog owner, they're going to look at your blog and think, yes, this guy or this girl is the sort of person that I want to be associated with, and will give him or her the opportunity to put an article on my blog. So that's sort of how it works. So let me give you 8 tips for effective guest posting. Now, tip number 1 is, like I was just saying, you have to have a decent number of well-written posts on your own blog, because other blog owners will want to satisfy themselves that you know what you're talking about and that you're a good writer. So that's the first thing that you need to have. You need to have all that before you start approaching any other blog owner. Tip number 2 is you want to draw up a list of highly ranked, high traffic blogs that are in your niche. So you want to do a search in Google or one of the other search engines for blogs in your niche, and you want to read through them. You want to look at what they've got on there. You want to see that they're the sort of blogs that you would like to be associated with, and then draw up a list. And once you've got your list drawn up, you want to start at the bottom of the list and work your way up to the top. Now, the reason that I say this is if you rank the list in order, obviously the blog that you really want to get your guest post on is going to be at the top. But the chances of you actually approaching somebody first time out of the blue and being accepted are fairly low. So if you start at the bottom of the list with a blog that you'd like to be on, but it's no big deal if they turn you down, you can use that as a learning experience. So you get in touch with that blog owner, they say no, you find out why, and then you can change your approach slightly when you go to the next person who's the second from the bottom of the list, and then you work your way up, and you'll probably be accepted by some other blogs along the way, so that when you actually get to the top of that list, to the blog that you really want to have the guest post on, you've got it all worked out. You know how to approach the person. You've got a list of blogs where you've already made guest posts. You've got plenty of posts on your own blog and so on. So by the time you get to the top of the list, you really are an expert in getting guest posts. Okay, tip number 3 is to contact the blog owner and ask if they accept guest postings. Now, don't just assume that they do just because they may have posts by other people on their blog. They could perhaps get some of their friends to make posts, or there might be more than one person who's involved in the blog. So don't just assume because there are multiple authors on a blog that they accept guest posts, because that might not be the case. Okay, tip number 4, and this is probably the most important one, is never, and I put it in capital letters here, never send an unsolicited guest post. What you want to do first off is to ask the blog owner what they're looking for. So ask what they're looking for after they've told you, yes, we accept guest posts. Ask what they're looking for and then write about that. You should also get a list of keywords from the blog owner, because after all, this is going to be something that they're going to have on their blog. They want the traffic and they want the keywords. So you want to get the list of keywords from the blog owner so that you can incorporate into your guest post. And you also want to find out how long they want the post to be. Some blogs have quite long articles on them. Some blogs have quite short articles. And you want to make sure that the article that you're going to write for them is going to fit their requirements. Tip number 5 is provide a couple of different versions of your guest post. So you want to rewrite it in a couple of different ways, because this gives the blog owner more choice. If they don't like one, they may use the other. And this increases your chances of getting published. Tip number 6 is stick around to respond to comments when your guest post gets published. So you don't just simply publish the post and then if there's any queries, if there's any comments, the blog owner has to respond to them, because he or she may not be as expert in the subject as you are. So you want to make sure that you're there so that if there's any feedback, you can answer it and not simply dump that onto the blog owner. And tip number 7 is don't publish the article anywhere else. And this includes your own blog, because sadly these days duplicated content gets slapped down by Google and it's not going to do you any favors, and it's certainly not going to do the blog owner any favors. So if you write an article and then you put it on your own blog as well and neither of them show up in the search engines, it's not going to do either of you any favors. And finally, you want to thank the blog owner. Courtesy costs nothing and it's very valuable indeed. So you can send them a thank you email, or you can send them a thank you e-card. And also something else that you can do is offer to reciprocate and publish a guest post on your own blog. After all, if the person who's writing the blog that you put the guest post on is a good writer and they've got a good following, then having a guest post from them on your blog is actually going to do you a lot of favors as well. So there you go. That's how you can leverage somebody else's virtual soapbox and be heard. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can use a niche forum to position yourself as an expert. Now, using a niche forum to position yourself as an expert gives you really 3 advantages. First of all, it enables you to get noticed because you're going to be posting things on a forum. It positions you in front of a specialist audience because only people who are interested in the subject, by and large, are going to go to that particular forum, and therefore they're going to be interested in what you have to say. And also it can provide, in some cases, a link back to your website as well, so you can get website traffic that way. Now, there's an online forum for just about every subject, things like hobbies, business, gaming, crafts, computers, the list just goes on and on and on. And if you just do a search in Google for your niche and then forum, you'll find quite a lot. Let me show you. And as you can see, I'm doing a search here in Google for Internet Marketing Forum. And you can see there are lots of different ones, 117 million results. That's the time that I'm making this video. And you can see there's a whole lot of different ones all the way down. And you'll find a similar number for just about every niche that there is, really. Now, when you start posting on a forum, there is a bit of forum etiquette that you need to understand if you want to be taken seriously and you want to be heard. So for that reason, it's a good idea to lurk for a while to see what type of stuff gets posted on the forum. Now, when I mean lurk, I mean just simply go to the forum and read the posts, look at the categories, look at some of the top posters and the people who have, say, the most likes, if a forum allows that, just to see the sort of thing that attracts people's attention, the sort of thing that gets noticed, the sort of thing that gets read and appreciated. When you've done that for a while, when you know exactly the sort of thing that you should be saying, you should reply to other posts to get noticed. Now, some forum sites insist you have a certain number of posts before you can open a thread of your own anyway, so this is always a good idea. And you should post useful information that's going to be appreciated by people who are reading the forum. You know, things like great post won't grow your reputation very well, and people will think, yes, this person is just simply trying to get their post count up so that they can reach the next level and do something like, you know, have a link in their signature or start a thread of their own. And oftentimes people who do this sort of thing, the first thread that they'll post on a forum will be something to sell their product or service. And these sort of people find that they don't last very long on a forum. You also want to post regularly to build up a following, because you find that the people who get listened to the most are the ones who are there the most often. And you also want to give away lots of useful information. You want to be very generous on the forum because it will be appreciated. But you want to check your facts first. You know, make sure that it's accurate, because it's hard to shake off a reputation as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And just to give you an example, I've come here to the Warrior Forum at warriorforum.com, which is an internet marketing forum. And I've just scrolled down through the first thread that I came to. And you can see I've pulled out this guy here as an example. I don't know this gentleman, but you can see here that he's joined in 2008. He's made 11,176 posts at the time that I'm making this video, and he's been thanked 1,886 times in 1,509 posts, and you can see that 2 people have already thanked him for this particular post. Now, this guy is someone I would listen to because he obviously knows what he's talking about. He's posted a lot of content on this site. He's been a member for quite some time, and other people have thanked him for his input. So therefore, he's someone who I'm going to be prepared to listen to. So when this guy talks, people listen. Bear in mind, though, that it takes some time to establish yourself as an expert. After all, that guy had been on the forum since 2008. But once you do, though, people will listen and you will be heard. Have you heard the expression, "we wrote the book on it"? Well, it's something that gets people listening, and I'm going to explain a bit more about that in this video. You see, being a published author makes you stand out from all the rest. Most people think that writing a book is difficult, so few people do. But the thing about writing a book is it bestows credibility. You know, people think you must be knowledgeable if you wrote a book on a particular subject. And people will regard you as an expert. They'll seek you out and they'll listen to what you have to say. So, is writing a book difficult? Well, a lot of that depends on what type of book you're writing. Non-fiction is easier to write than fiction. And if you can write articles or blog posts, then you can write a book, because basically writing a book is just writing a lot of articles and stringing them together as chapters. That's a very good way to do it, a very easy way to do it. Of course, if you don't want all the hassle of writing your own book, you can always hire a ghostwriter to do it for you. And there are lots of places online that you can hire ghostwriters. A good site to look on is Upwork, which you can find here at upwork.com. And you can see there's lots of people here who are ghostwriters. You scroll down here, you can see some of them have got quite a lot of experience. Like this lady here has got 30 years experience in the publishing business. Down here, this lady here wrote an Amazon best-selling book for a client. Now, none of these people are cheap. You'll notice they tend to go in the $30 to $40 per hour range. And you also have to bear in mind that it does take a long time to write a book. But if you've got the money to invest and you're confident of success, and the ghostwriter has proved that they've got a demonstrable track record, then it could be a very good investment for you. Now, there are two main types of publication that you can write. And the first one is an ebook. Now, an ebook is an electronic book, and it's something that can be distributed over the internet. And an ebook can either be in PDF format, or it can be formatted for e-readers like the Amazon Kindle. And the second type of publication is a printed book, the sort of hardback or paperback book that you would buy in a bookshop. Ebooks tend to sell for a lower price point than printed books, principally because, of course, you don't have all the printing and the distribution that you have to have with a hardcover or paperback book. And some ebooks are also bought and sold with private label rights, otherwise known as PLR. Now, printed books tend to be held in a higher regard than ebooks. And if you've written a printed book, then quite often you really are considered to be an expert. One guy that I used to know who ran a marketing agency had a printed book done. He'd written lots of articles that he put up on his blog and that he put on article directories and other places like that. And he composed them all together, and he had them printed into a hardcover book. And when he went to pitch for offline business, he would actually hand out a copy of his book as a freebie. And people would be really impressed by this, think, oh goodness, he's written a book. He's wrote the book on the subject. He must be really good. So it does tend to be held in much higher regard than just an ebook, because people think that it is much more difficult to write a printed book. It isn't, but that's what people think. And of course, there's no reason why you can't distribute your book in both formats. So you could have an ebook and you could also have a printed version. It's pretty much the same content. Now, when it comes to distributing your book, a lot of what you do is going to depend on whether you're writing a printed book or whether you're writing an ebook. Now, when it comes to distributing ebooks, there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can do so via your own website, or you can do it online via a third-party website. Now, a few third-party sites that you might sell your ebook on are ClickBank, which is clickbank.com, JVZoo, which is jvzoo.com. And if you're writing for the Amazon Kindle, you can publish it on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, which is amazonkdp.com. And what all these sites will do is they will let affiliates market your ebook for you in return for a percentage of the profits. And you can actually get your ebook marketed very quickly through these sites. Now, when it comes to distributing printed books, again, there are several ways that you can go. You can either do it via your own website. You can print the book off on your own printer and bind it in a cone binding and send it out in the mail. But it's probably going to be much better in the long run to do it via some sort of print-on-demand service. A few print-on-demand sites to consider are CreateSpace, which you'll find here at createspace.com. And this is owned by Amazon, so you can actually sell your hard copy book through Amazon.com and get it printed on demand through CreateSpace, and it all ties together very easily. So it is a good way to get your book to market very quickly. In the UK, there's blurb.co.uk. They handle on-demand book printing. And also in the US, there's Vervante, which you can find here at vervante.com. You can also distribute printed books via bookstores, but this does require a hefty investment because you've got to pay to have all the books printed. You've got to send them out to the bookstores, and a lot of bookstores will only take books on a sale or return basis, especially from an untried author. So if the book doesn't sell, then they're going to send it back to you and they're going to want their money back. So it's best to pitch your book at a conventional publisher if you plan on going down this route. So there you go. Once you've written the book on something, you will be heard because people will think that you are an expert. In this video, I'm going to talk you through how you can go about being heard via press releases. Now, press releases are old school, but they still work, and they're used by lots of big businesses and by politicians and by all sorts of people. So they are something that still works, and they still work well. And the reason that they work well is because they are a win-win situation for everybody. You, the person sending out the press release, gets publicity and exposure, and the news organization, the newspaper or the news website gets content. So you can see how it works well for everybody. Now, to be effective, your press release must be, first of all, interesting. It must be something that people are going to want to read about. And secondly, it must be news. It must not be a sales pitch. If you want your press release to be ignored, write it like you're going to write your web space, and then it'll go straight into the bin or straight into the spam folder. So it must be something that is newsworthy, not a sales pitch for your business or for your website. Now, your press release should follow this sort of a format. First of all, you need to tell people that it is a press release. So you put that right at the very top, that it is a press release. Then you want to have the time and the date that it is available to be published. You can have it for immediate release, which means, of course, that as soon as the news agency gets it, they can publish it right away, or it can be embargoed until a particular date and time. And when it's embargoed, it means that the news agency is not allowed to publish it until after the particular date and time. Now, you might want to do that if, for example, you have a product launch coming up, then obviously you wouldn't want the news to be released until after your product has gone live. Or if you're giving a news conference and you're going to give some of the details of things that you're going to say in the news conference, then you might not want that to be out into the public domain until you've actually had the opportunity to say it. So that's when you would embargo it until a particular date and time. Then you want your headline, and the headline needs to be both factual and attention-grabbing. And realistically, you should try to keep it under 10 words if possible. So it's something that's going to grab the attention, and it's something that's actually going to be factual. Then you want to put the location of the news release. Now, this is important if it's a local story, but it's also something that most news agencies like to see, even if it's something of national or world importance. Then they still do like to actually see a location. So you will put your town or city and your state or county and the country as well. Then you want the news story. And the news story needs to be written in a journalistic and a non-salesy way. And you want to break it up into paragraphs. Unless this is a particularly long story, you want to try to keep it all on one page, because obviously the whole idea of a press release is to get interest from the media. Although, I'll be honest, I have written press releases myself and then seen them printed almost word for word verbatim in newspapers. So you do have to bear in mind that a lot of times, especially if the press release is emailed, which it generally is these days, that a journalist is going to just simply copy and paste it straight from your press release into the publication. So you want to make sure that it is actually written in a journalistic way and that it's not a big sales pitch for your product or service or for your blog. If your press release exceeds more than one page, then be sure to put more at the bottom of the page so that the journalist will know that it continues on another page. You could also put page 1 of however many. Then you have the about. And this is basically a short background or a bio about the person or the organization that's mentioned in the press release. You should also make sure that it's spelled properly, unlike the one that I've done here. So you want to make sure that that's all done and that you have some information, some background information about yourself or your organization at the bottom of the press release. Then you want to have the contact details, and this should include the contact name, the address, phone numbers, email addresses, etc., so that they know that it is coming from a genuine source and they can track it back and check it out if need be. You also want to state if the contact is going to be available for interviews, and if you can be interviewed in person or over the phone or via Skype or something like that. And then you want to specify that it is the end of the press release. You generally write end in capital letters and have it centered, or you can put 3 hashtags and have it centered. I've seen it done both ways. And this is pretty much the standard sort of format that you want to have for any type of press release. If you'd rather not write the press release yourself, there are lots of services out there. Lots of people who will write press releases for you. If you just do a search in Google for press release writing service, you'll find that there are lots. Or you can look on a freelancing site like Upwork.com, and you can see there are lots of people here who also write press releases. Now, when it comes to distributing your press releases, there are several ways that you can do it. And the first and probably the easiest and the cheapest way in terms of monetary terms is to do it yourself. And if you are sending out a press release that's purely of local interest and you're just going to send it to your local newspaper or to your local TV station or to your local radio station, then it's fine to do it yourself because chances are it's not going to take you longer than, an afternoon or something. But if you want to have it distributed widely, then you really do need to have a press release distribution service. And if you do a search in Google, you'll find that there are lots. Do a search for press release distribution services. And it's better to use a press release distribution service, not just because it's going to save you time, but also because news organizations are going to be used to receiving emails from these distribution services. So they are more likely to open the email and read the press release than they would be if you just simply sent it to them. They might think that you were spamming them or something like that. There are free and paid for services. Personally, I'm a big believer in that you get what you pay for, so it's a good idea to actually pay to have your press release sent around rather than just simply rely on the free ones who'll probably just simply spam it. Now, of course, if your release gets picked up by a major publication or by a TV station or a TV network, well, frankly, the sky's the limit and you can get more publicity than you ever dreamed of. So there you go. That's how you can be heard via press releases. In this video, I want to talk about being heard via YouTube. First of all, a few facts about YouTube. YouTube is the second most popular search engine on the net, right after Google, which happens to own YouTube. And the top ranked YouTube videos show on the first page of Google. Now, there's less competition on YouTube, so it's easier to get a high ranking. So you can get a high ranking on YouTube and it shows up on the first page of Google. So it really is a shortcut in many ways to getting to the top of Google. And video blogging, otherwise known as vlogging, is becoming increasingly popular. And the sort of niches that do well with this are the health and fitness niche, fashion and beauty niche, gaming niche, and anything that's aimed at young people and teenagers tend to do well on YouTube when it comes to video blogging. And of course, if your video goes viral, it can potentially be viewed by millions of people. Probably the most viral video of all time is Gangnam Style, which YouTube actually had to change their software for the stats counting because so many people have watched it. And at the time that I'm making this video, you can see we've got over 2 billion views in YouTube. And this is an extreme example, but you never know, your video could be the next Gangnam Style. It just shows you what can happen if a video goes viral. Okay, here's a really quick introduction to making videos for YouTube. Now, for most people, the simplest way to make a YouTube video is to use your smartphone. Most smartphones these days can record in HD video. Some can even record in 4K. So you can get quite a nice, sharp picture from your smartphone. One thing you should do if you're going to use your smartphone to make a video is to hold it the correct way round. You want to hold it long ways, like I'm showing in this illustration here, because then that fits into the size dimensions for the video on YouTube, for the video window on YouTube. If you don't have a smartphone and you don't want to get one, then the other alternative is to get an HD camcorder. You can get a reasonably good quality one off eBay quite cheaply. I'd avoid the really cheapo ones because the quality probably isn't going to be very good, but you can get one for upwards of $100 that will be perfectly adequate to do this sort of job. In addition to the picture, you also want to pay particular attention to the sound. So you want to shoot your video somewhere quiet, somewhere that's not going to have a lot of background noise, somewhere that's not going to have an echo or anything like that. And you want to use an external microphone if possible, because that helps cut out background noise, background chatter. So if you can have an external microphone that somebody can wear on their clothing, like a lavalier microphone or a lapel mic, a tie mic, then that's going to give you much better audio than if you simply use the microphone that came with the camera or with the cell phone. You also want to pay attention to the picture composition. So you want to choose a relevant location and a background. You also want to get the lighting right, because there's nothing worse than trying to look at a video and it's not lit properly. It can be very distracting and it can take the attention away from the subject. Ideally, you should aim for what's known as Rembrandt lighting. And this is so called because this is a type of lighting techniques that Rembrandt used in his pictures, and in particular his self-portraits. And if you can see this one here, you'll notice that the light is stronger on one side than it is on another. So it's got a bright light on one side, and then the light on the other side is dimmer. It's not completely black, so it's not sort of going to be silhouetted, but you have a strong light that's lighting him from one side and then a smaller light from the other, and the background is fairly dark. So that's probably the most ideal way to light your YouTube videos. Of course, shooting is only one part of putting together a YouTube video. Editing is another, because obviously not everything goes right the first time when you're shooting a video, and you'll want to cut out mistakes and you'll want to move things along. And you also perhaps might want to put things in a different order than the order that you shot them in. There are lots of different video editing packages out there, both free and paid for. Let me just show you a few of my favorites. The first one is the free version of Serif Movie Plus, Serif Movie Plus Starter Edition, which you can download for free from serif.com/free-video-editing-software. And as you can see, it's got lots of different features on here, and it is quite a nice, easy piece of kit to use. You can also use Windows Movie Maker if you're using a PC, and you can find out more at windows.microsoft.com. You may already have it on your computer if you're running Windows. If you want to go for a paid-for solution, then a couple I'll show you here. The first one is the paid-for version of Serif Movie Plus, which is Serif Movie Plus X6. And this is the one that I use, and it is actually very simple and easy to use. It's not all that expensive. At the time I'm making this video, £61 is about $100 or thereabouts. And it does have a lot more features than the free version. Or you can use some of the Sony Vegas software packages. There's Sony Vegas or Sony Movie Studio. You can find out more at sonycreativesoftware.com/Vegas software. And you can see they've got some that go all the way from high-end pro editing packages right down to some fairly reasonably priced packages like Sony Movie Studio 13. If you don't want to appear in the video, you can make what's known as a PowerPoint and Camtasia video. And this is a graphics and screen captures video with a narration soundtrack, a bit like this video that you're watching now. PowerPoint comes as part of Microsoft Office, which you may already have on your computer if you have a PC. If not, you can get it from Microsoft, and for more information you should go to microsoftstore.com, then click on the Products tab and then the Software menu here. For screen capture, the best one on the market is Camtasia, which you can find out more about at techsmith.com/camtasia.html. It's not cheap, but it is a worthwhile investment. It comes with both the screen capture and editing software, so it's a complete package. I'm actually using Camtasia to make this video. If you want some free solutions, then a good free alternative to Microsoft Office is LibreOffice, which you can download from LibreOffice.org. And LibreOffice Impress is actually the software that I'm using to make the slides in this video. There's also a good free open source screen capture software called Cam Studio, which you can download from camstudio.org. And it's just the screen recording software, though. It doesn't come with the editing software, so you would need to get one of the editing packages that I spoke about earlier on if you're going to use Cam Studio. Now, I've only really going to have time to scratch the surface of how to make videos for YouTube in this video. But if you go to YouTube itself and do a search for how to make a good YouTube video, you'll find that there are quite a number of people out there who will talk you through it in some detail. Now, what types of videos go viral and get lots of shares and lots of views? Well, they tend to be quirky, something that's unusual that someone might want to share with somebody else. They also tend to be entertaining. They're not run-of-the-mill. They're something that's going to bring a smile to someone's face, perhaps. But above all else, the types of videos that go viral are different. Now, what types of videos do not go viral? Well, the first type of video that never ever goes viral are sales videos. If a video is salesy, then it's certainly not going to go viral. It's not going to get shared. You know, a lot of people make the classic mistake when they're trying to get their video shared. They'll put out a really conventional salesy type video and nobody bothers to watch it, and they simply can't understand why. And another type of video that doesn't go viral are boring videos. You know, the sort of videos that get shared, that get noticed, are the ones that are different, that are unusual, that are unconventional. So you need to bear that in mind when it comes to making a video that you want to get shared on YouTube. You really got to think outside the box and do something that's original and that's going to get noticed. Now, you can always make a quirky video and put your website URL at the end of it if your aim is traffic generation. So there you go. That's just some of the ways that you can be heard via YouTube. In this video, I want to talk to you about Periscope, which is a brand new way to be heard. Well, what is Periscope? Well, put simply, Periscope is a smartphone app, and you can get it for both iOS and Android smartphones. And it allows you to do live video streaming. Well, what is live video streaming and why should you care? Well, let me give you a brief introduction to live video streaming. As the name would suggest, live video streaming is video that goes out live directly from your smartphone out onto this app. Now, video streaming isn't new. Skype have been doing it for years. If you make a video call via Skype, you're effectively video streaming. But with Periscope, this allows your video to be streamed publicly. So anyone who's got the app on their mobile phone can tune in and start watching at any time. And people can comment live, which allows the person filming to view and respond to messages. So it's like giving a webinar, but live over your cell phone. And this is what the app looks like. This is the Android version of it, and the video that was being streamed when this snapshot was taken was of a sunset over San Francisco. And you can see, if you look down towards the bottom there, people have put comments on there, you know, it looks awesome, and are you sure this isn't Photoshop, and that sort of thing. But you can also like the video stream. That's what the little heart icons are for. And you can also tap in a comment straight from your cell phone, and the person who's streaming will get to read it right away. You can also see that at the time that this snapshot was taken, there were 456 people watching this particular stream. So you already have an audience right there. And with Periscope, it's almost like you've got your own TV station, really. You can send out a broadcast live at any time, just like they do on TV. But you don't need all the paraphernalia that goes on with having a TV station. You don't need a transmitter. You don't need a studio. You don't need anything like that. All you need is your cell phone, and then you can start streaming. Now, the thing about Periscope is, first of all, it's new. So you're getting in on something at the beginning. And it's growing fast. There are over 10 million user accounts on Periscope, and it's getting more and more every day. Now, not many people are posting content at the moment. Most of those 10 million users are just watching the content that's there. So it's very easy to be heard. And it's gaining popularity. The month it was launched, there were 60,000 tweets about it. And Twitter certainly believes in the potential of Periscope, because they were willing to invest a whopping $100 million to purchase it. And that was before it launched. So obviously they think, and they obviously know quite a lot about this sort of thing, that this is something to be involved in for the future. Now, how are people using Periscope at the moment? Well, in lots of different ways. You find, first of all, if you tune into Periscope now, you'll see things like people doing workouts while their phone films them. You'll find people chatting over a cup of coffee or a mug of tea, and they're talking about a particular topic. You'll find people lying in bed just staring into the camera. You'll find people cooking and talking through recipes. People just talking randomly. It's so new that some people just simply get on it and just talk and babble and ramble. You'll find people reading excerpts from books. You'll find people not doing anything and just letting their viewers watch them as they go through their lives. You'll also find television presenters who are using Periscope to add more productivity, so that you can get a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on in certain TV stations, for example. And there's a whole lot more, and new uses are being thought up for this particular app each and every single day. Another thing about Periscope, which sets it apart from other streaming applications out there like Meerkat, is it does save the video on their server for 48 hours. So what you can then do is download the video to your computer and then re-edit it, put it up on YouTube, and get a whole new audience. So you can get 2 for 1, really, when it comes to using Periscope. And of course, as I said, because not many people are using it, you're really going to be heard. You're really going to stand out because it's not a particularly crowded field at the moment. In this video, I'm going to talk you through some tried and tested ways of being heard. Now, a lot of these methods are considered old school, and maybe you've tried them in the past, but they still work, and you can still get your message out. You can still be heard by using them. Now, the first one, and one that works really well and still does, is ad swaps. You need a mailing list to do this. But what happens is you send an email to your list advertising somebody else's offer, and they reciprocate by sending an email to their list advertising your offer. And it works very well because, first of all, it's going to a very targeted list of recipients. They're people who want to receive email from either you or this other person. And because they're coming from a trusted source, they're likely to be opened and likely to be read. So your message is likely to be heard. And lots of people actually swear by ad swaps still, even though they've been around for as long as there's been email, really. And the second method is via Twitter. Now, Twitter is still a great way to reach a consumer audience. So if you're a business and you want to reach potential customers, then Twitter is still a good way to do it. And it's estimated that the average user spends about 17 minutes each and every day reading tweets. And you can read a lot of 140 character messages in that time. So if someone is following you on Twitter, chances are they are going to read your tweets and they are going to listen to what you have to say. And then there's Facebook. And there are 2 ways that you can be heard on Facebook. The first is through a Facebook page or a Facebook fan page. And the other way is through Facebook ads. And Facebook ads in particular can be very, very targeted. And it's estimated that the average user spends 51 minutes per day on the site. So there's a lot of interaction that goes on. So lots of people still pay a lot of attention to Facebook. And then there's Google+. Now, Google+ is very underrated as a social network. Lots of people write Google+ off. They say that it was a flop. It didn't start very well. It tried to compete with Facebook and it didn't do a good job, and so on and so on and so on. And so lots of people have constantly written off Google+. But the thing about Google Plus is it is run by Google, and posts on Google Plus are indexed and ranked into Google's search pages so that you do get your message into Google very quickly when you do it via Google Plus. And then there's LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is perfect for reaching a business-to-business audience. And there are millions of people in businesses, large and small, all around the world who regularly check into LinkedIn. And there are two ways that you can get your message out and be heard on LinkedIn. The first and simplest and cheapest is to participate into discussions. Join in the discussion in your niche and get well known. Treat it like you would any other forum site, really, and become well known and regarded as an expert on LinkedIn, and you will be heard. And the other way is to buy advertising on LinkedIn. It works in a similar way to buying the Google AdWords or buying Facebook advertising, but it's aimed purely and solely at businesses and a business-related audience. So if you're looking for a business-to-business market, then LinkedIn is certainly a good place to start looking for customers and people who are interested in what you have to say. Another way, and this is very old school, but it still works, is to have share buttons on your website or your blog so that when people come to your site, they like your content, they can click the button and share it on Facebook or Twitter or other social networks. If you have a WordPress blog, then you can install the Shareaholic plugin, which will put share buttons for Facebook and Twitter and other sites on there. And you can either install it from within the WordPress dashboard itself, or you can come here to shareaholic.com. And finally, there are article sites. Now, article sites are not as useful for SEO as they used to be, certainly since the last time that Google changed their algorithm. But they still can be helpful for getting your message out there. And probably the best site for distributing articles is ezinearticles.com. In fact, some people say that once you've got your article on ezinearticles.com, you don't really need to look anywhere else. And you can sign up for free on the site. Now, one thing to remember, though, is once you've got your article up on ezinearticles.com, is don't post it anywhere else, not even on your own blog, because then it's going to be duplicate content and it's going to get slapped down. But they do still work for getting your message out. So there you go, a few old school, tried and tested methods of being heard, which still work today, just as they always have done.